As I was going to sleep that night, a light came over my bed. It was like a beautiful white light, was like full of love. It could see right into my soul. And I just knew that it was seeing me, and I was really scared because I was like, I'm not ready to be seen by this light. I was still hiding a lot of myself, and I was terrified. So I tensed up and I told it to go away overnight. And I just was going to school that next morning, and I saw light just coming out of everyone I passed, like beautiful ethereal light. Everybody was just gorgeous. I do believe that's how God sees us all the time, like, but even more than that. But it did make it hard to date. I was like a single woman in New York, and I was like, everyone's glowing.
Well, hello, Rebecca Kastl. Welcome to the show. I am truly honored by you joining me today. Now, how are you feeling today?
I'm really excited to be here. So yeah, good, feeling good.
Oh, excellent. Well, you got this very unique STE story we're going to talk all about in just a minute. Yeah. Now, every week we bring you powerful stories about life after death awakening and what it means to be human. And if that resonates, you'll love what's coming. Today's guest is Rebecca Kastl, whose transformative spiritual journey shifted her from skepticism to profound spiritual awakening. Raised in a scientific and skeptical household, Rebecca's life dramatically changed following a heartfelt prayer that opened her to a 2-year spirituality transformative experience, an STE, right? So today, she's an angel interpreter, energy healer, and shares messages of love, healing, and divine guidance. So Rebecca, thank you for joining us. I can't wait to explore your incredible journey today.
So awesome to be here. Thank you so much for having me, and just such great energy happening in your show. I'm really excited for it. So yeah, I'll just get started on my story. You kind of summarized it so well. I was raised in a skeptical family. It was also an interfaith family. So many questions around my experience when it happened. I was raised Reformed Jewish. My mom converted to Judaism from Christianity. I found out in high school, but it wasn't like she just converted. She'd converted after coming from 200 years of ministers. Some of them are in books. So that's a part of the story I haven't been talking about, but I'm like, I should start telling that. So I was raised with this interfaith background, but primarily Jewish. I didn't find out about my Christian side till I was older. And my dad and my family at the time when I was raised was very skeptical. So I was raised, my dad was an MD, PhD. He was a physician with a PhD in biochemistry. And his philosophy on life was really kind of what the voice of my childhood was. Like, don't believe things that don't make sense. You need to be a smart, rational person. And honestly, I'm really thankful for that background as a child, because it really did help me when I had my spiritual experiences to really take it down to like what made sense in my life and how could I accept it as something that was real. So that was my background. And, I had a trauma at 13 that was like a really horrible sexual assault. And I didn't deal with it for a long time. And I finally did start to deal with it. I went to therapy some in high school, and then I went in college, a lot of therapy. And I was like a straight A student, and I was a straight A therapy patient. I did all of the therapy I was supposed to do with my therapist, loved them. But eventually, after doing a lot of therapy, they were like, you're fine. You don't need any more therapy. And I was like, I really loved my therapist. I'm not trying to say anything nasty about any therapy because it's really helpful. But I knew that there was just more that I needed. Like I describe it like it felt like there was something on top of my heart. And I just wanted to find out what was under it. Like, yes, I was functioning when my therapist told me I didn't need therapy anymore, but I wasn't feeling self-actualized is I guess how I would say it. But when I thought about it at 23, I was like, something's not right. I want to feel my heart. And I just set out this intention at age 23, after I'd been dismissed from therapy, I want to heal all the way. And I set this intention, I want to heal all the way. And when I said that, I just my whole life shifted. And I just want your listeners to know, when you set a private intention for your life that's sincere, I think it can really, really change your life, because I've done that several times. And it's like God, the creator, is just like there to take you along. So it was like, as soon as I said that, felt like I was really helped. Looking back on it, I didn't really notice at the time, but my life started shifting towards like healing. So I was 23. I met a yoga teacher. She helped me a lot. I studied a lot of yoga. I had been very disembodied. So that helped me come back to my body. I started studying energy healing. This was all very beautiful to me. And it was like clearing the layers of trauma that talk therapy hadn't taken me to. And at this time, during those, it was like a couple years from 23 to 25 that I was super focused on healing. And I'd also started writing my journal, Dear God. So this was how my STE started. I would write like, Dear God, and just talk about whatever was going on with me. And another thing that happened during this time was my stepdad came into my life. So, I had a Christian mom, a Jewish dad. My mom went back to Christianity when I was in high school. My dad is still Jewish. I know this is beyond religion, but I kind of love this part of my life because my stepdad was an Indigenous medicine man. My mom remarried him when I was in my early 20s, and he became a really powerful father figure in my life. So as my spiritual experiences started, he was very tuned into that side of life. I didn't understand it at all, but he helped me a ton because he had like a background in his family lineage of healing, of like Indigenous connection to the Creator. I look back, I'm like, wow, how did I not appreciate? I just didn't understand anything that was happening to me, but he helped me a lot. So anyway, all of these people in my life, awesome, love all my family. And I moved to graduate school in New York at Columbia University Teachers College. I moved there when I was 25. I'd been doing all of this healing. I'd gotten like a lot happier. And I was like, went back to school for speech pathology, which is what I do now. And when I was in school, I basically, the first January of my first year, I was writing in my journal that Dear God, la, 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 Dear God, Dear God. And I felt really taken over by this feeling. I started crying. I got tingles all over my body. And I wrote that I wanted to devote my life to God, just like out of the blue, it seemed like, but at the time, I really meant it, but it didn't feel like anything I would ever plan to do. I was like healing and going to grad school. Didn't seem like I was like anyone that was going to devote my life to God. I call myself the accidental mystic because it really seemed like it came out of nowhere to my personality. It's possible my soul really wanted me to do this. So as I was writing in my journal, I started to write, Dear God, I have decided to give my life to you, and whatever that entails. I want to be guided by you, by the light. This is my pledge. I will work hard to follow this path and bring it to fruition. Please help me do this. Please help me bring light to other people. Thank you. Amen. And I wrote I just was crying and I just meant it. And I finished my journal entry about some other things going on in my life. And then I went to bed. And that's when my STE started, my spiritually transformative experience. As I was going to sleep that night, a light came over my bed. And anyone listening who's a skeptic, I literally asked myself about 100 times if that ever happened. And I also just tried to ignore it for a long time. But when you have a spiritual experience, it's like this light was not a light in the room. It was like a beautiful white light that had was like full of love. It could see right into my soul. And I just knew that it was seeing me. And I was really scared because I was like, I'm not ready to be seen by this light. I was still hiding a lot of myself and I was terrified. So I tensed up and I told it to go away over and over again. And I was like, go away, I'm scared, go away, I'm scared. I'd never seen anything like that before. And I didn't know it was spiritual. Like I just was like so scared I told it to go away. And then when I told it to go away, I started to feel tingling come through my head. So I started to feel tingling like this. It was like spreading through my head. And it was like peaceful and loving, and it was getting stronger and stronger. And I was like, this is such a weird headache. What's going on with this headache? I had a boyfriend at the time. He was asleep in the bed next to me. And I looked at him like, is he having this headache? This is so weird. And as it kept getting stronger and stronger. And then I relaxed into the feeling and I felt a voice come into my head that said, you don't have to be afraid, but if you are, you can wear a hat. And it put a graduation hat into my mind's eye. And at the time I was just like, 26. I was like, that's not a cute hat. And I put like 3 or 4 other hat options into the voice because I didn't know what it was. And I was like, bad choice. But I know what it was for. It was like a metaphor, I think, because I was in graduate school the whole time of my STE that lasted for the next 2 years. And I was able to like wear the hat of a student and go through my regular life and be really plugged in on this side, but also receive all of these spiritual learnings and teachings that I got for the 2 years after that. Some people have said maybe it was a graduation thing, but I also think I was afraid, and it was like, you don't need to be afraid. Like, you're still a student, and that God, the more I tell this story, the more I'm like, I'm not, whatever you want to call it, God, divine consciousness, the creator, like this came from something way beyond me, and like, it's so much smarter than me. So I know that there was a lot more divine intelligence happening in terms of how my experience unfolded. So there was some wisdom there. So that was like, I went to sleep. That was the first night of my experience. And then I just went to bed. And the next morning I woke up like, that was weird. I don't know what happened. I don't know what that was about. And I just was going to school that next morning, and I saw light just coming out of everyone I passed, like beautiful ethereal light. Like, just thinking about it now, I'm getting goosebumps because everybody was just gorgeous. And I was like, oh my gosh, like people are so beautiful. How come I've never noticed people are this beautiful? I was just like, I'm getting like, so it's like, it was so powerful. I do believe that's how God sees us all the time, like, but even more than that. But I just got a glimpse because that light had come to me, and I was like, whoa, this is incredible. I joke now that it did make it hard to date because I was eventually I was like a single woman in New York, and I was like, everyone's glowing. Anyway, so that was the first week. Also that first week I started having psychic dreams, and I didn't mention this earlier, but my dad was a doctor. My mom was a psychologist. And during my childhood, like, our main thing was also like, dreams aren't psychic. Like, dreams tell you about yourself. It was like Freudian dream analysis, like nothing, like there was no concept of psychic dreams in my life. But like that week I started having dreams that started coming true. I started having dreams that were giving guidance. Like, they would give me guidance about my life, like relationships that I needed to mend. It was all very, those have continued from that week until today. And when I was not sure if my experience was real, I looked back and I'm like, well, those dreams started that week. I didn't have psychic dreams before this. Also in the dream world. So a lot of this is like my spiritual internal world and getting it right with like higher consciousness, love, light. I had been having these nightmares of demons after my trauma. And I would be in a sleep paralysis, and I would be awakened, and they would circle me and like taunt me, and they would get really scary sometimes. They were just like these shadowy figures. And obviously I wasn't raised in a house that ever talked about anything like this. And I know there's many philosophies on what this could be, but they started like right after my trauma, and they continued through my life up until my spiritual experience. So the last nightmare I ever had like that, I was awakened in the middle of the night during these 2 years, and this shadowy thing was circling me, and it was like trying to poke my heart. And I was sitting up outside my body. It was like a sleep paralysis. And for the first time ever in 13 years, I looked right at this thing, and I was like, why have I been so afraid of you guys? Like, I just looked right at it and I was like, you can't hurt me. God lives in me and works through me. And I just said that with such peace in my heart, knowing that like God was with me and I didn't have to be afraid. And they went away. Like, I never had another nightmare again. And it was like a huge triumph in my life. And I just, of course, like went to sleep. And then I woke up the next morning and went to grad school, had my friends, like no one knew I was going through any of this, but it was super powerful. And I hated those nightmares, and I've been nightmare free for almost two decades, I guess. Yeah. It's crazy. It's been that long. So anyway, after that, other things happened. I mean, there's like a list of different things that happened. I saw an alternate timeline of my life. I was just vibrating really like with the angels for these couple years. Like, everything was just so aligned. Like, I felt angels around me. The first time I really noticed it, I was going to sign up to study abroad again. It was all happening in my regular life. So anyone that's wanting to have a spiritual experience, it's like you do not have to be like a prophet on a mountaintop. Like God and the Creator like cares about you exactly as you are and works with you where you are. I was a graduate student and I was going to sign up to study abroad, and I felt two really tall angels on either shoulder, just really gently telling me that I shouldn't do that. And it was so strong during those 2 years. I just knew to listen, and I put the pen down and I didn't sign up. Now, who knows? Maybe there was going to be something bad that was going to happen to me on that if I had gone on that trip. I don't know. So that was really powerful, and I've seen angels since. I've been connected with them, and that's how I do my sessions for people. And it's very beautiful. They're really always here with all of us. Other things, let's see. It was just all very beautiful. The timeline was really interesting. I was going to write a different book towards the end of my STE. I remember opening up my computer at a coffee shop in New York where I was in grad school, and I was starting to type. And as I was starting to type, I saw my whole life flash, like I lived it. It wasn't like I saw it. It was like I was in a movie and I was watching the movie of what my life would be like if I wrote a book about this other topic. Now I know, like, the angels, whatever, they're like, you need to be writing about what happened to you. Like, I'm supposed to be doing this right now, but I didn't know that. And I was like, obviously, like, not very spiritual, because everything that happened to me, I was like so confused and like, I don't like that hat. Like, da 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 da. So I was like, I'm going to write this other book. And it was like, it was like a bad choice. They showed me like the book would get published to bad reviews. I would feel super dejected and depressed, and my whole life would be like kind of sad because of this event. And I just thought, oh wow, I'm not going to do that. And I closed my computer. One of the gifts of these 2 years was that, I hope I'm not talking too much. I'm just like really jamming today. You're a really good listener. I like, one of the gifts was it was so loud. Like when I got guidance during those 2 years, I like knew what it was for, and I knew how to like follow it. And but like once it ended, it's like I really have to really practice, because it's not always as loud as it was during those 2 years. But anyway, but they don't tell you what to do. They're just like, hey, this is what it's like if you do that. They're not going to say if I have to or not. It's more like you have free will, and if you choose to make this choice, you're not going to be that happy.
I can't believe how well you tell this story. I mean, I've, gone online and watched other videos and seen you tell the story, and it's just like today you were just on fire. You're surgical. You're executing all the main bullet points and getting all the strong
It's just
messages. I don't know how. It's just another miracle. Now, you know what? I wonder. Here's the thing. The 2 year window of the STE, the spiritual transformative experience. Now, an NDE, near death experience. You kind of sort of die for that. There's maybe some pain involved, not always. But a spiritually transformative experience, that's pretty cool. Sort of anyone can have this, but not everyone does, of course. So you did. Now, why was it there a 2 year window, and what transitioned out of that second year, third, fourth?
Oh, yeah. I think it coincided, honestly, like that. Looking back, I think it was like coinciding with school, because by the time I was finishing school, my experience was ending. I had a big dream that ended it, and I don't know why it was 2 years, but maybe that's why, as again, I'm realizing I didn't make this happen to me. Like there's divine intelligence that understands much more than I understand. But I had a dream with this beautiful angel. That's like my favorite part of my experience. I was in my room talking with this person who was glowing and just like smiling. And I was just saying in this dream, like, I don't know why I'm here. I don't know what I'm doing. Life is hard. And I was like complaining, even though I'd been having this beautiful spiritual experience, like I was still feeling this way, because life can still be hard. And he was like, just with all this love looking right at me, like, life is amazing. You need to go out and have a great life. Go have adventures. Go live a great life. It's such a gift to be alive. And like, I say those words, but it's hard to get across the feeling of like all the love and all the excitement. And he was just like, life is awesome. You got to go have a good life. And I was like, what? Okay. Like, and I felt all this love, and I was like, oh my gosh, what's your name? When am I going to meet you? Cause I just was like, this guy is so beautiful. At the time I was 28 by this point, and I really thought he was going to be my boyfriend. I thought he was a real person. And he was like, you'll meet me when you finish swimming. And the dream shifted from me talking to him in my room to me being lowered from a huge ship down into an ocean. And I just had to start swimming out alone into the ocean. And like when I woke up the next morning, it was over. Like there was just no denying. All the light was gone. I didn't realize for those 2 years I had felt like surrounded by these angels and like all this light. It's hard to describe it unless you've been there. But it pulled back and I was like, what is happening? I did not understand why I was here in my heart. For some reason, I just thought I was going to learn all this cool stuff. And then I was going to go live in heaven. It was going to be super awesome. And then it was just like, bye, like I'm like here. I felt super alone. I cried a lot. It was like many-year process to like integrating this experience because I didn't die. There's like studies for people who have near-death experiences. And I know it's a totally different thing, but it was like, I was here. I was seeing the heavenly overlay on our planet. It was very hard when it stopped because I was like, shouldn't that just stay? Like, I don't know. But now I've learned that I can get tuned into that light without trying to escape. That was the main thing. I think I was trying to escape the earth. And I was like wanting to leave, but I still need to be a human and have those like spiritual experiences or connections. So,
well, that's actually a very good point. You get to bask in the glory for 2 years, and now you almost have to say, well, now apply that toward maybe something practical like helping yourself as well as many other folks. And I think that's what you found. And so now you can tap into it and then redirect it and use it. So you have a website now. Folks come there. They reach out to you. How do you help them in what different ways?
Yeah. Well, I do a lot of different things, and thank you so much for understanding that because it's really, it seems so complex. But yes, I have done ever since my experience ended. I've been working with children in like a lot of high needs or kids in public schools, in all kinds of clinics. I work with kids. I'm a speech pathologist, but like when I was in grad school, when I started, I was like, I'm doing research. I'm like a brainiac. And now it's like, I'm going to work in some really underserved communities. And that was starting right after my STE ended. So I still do that now. I love the work I do with kids. But one day a week right now, Monday through Thursday, that's my normal job. And on Fridays, I do what I call now sacred soul sessions. I've kind of shifted what I'm offering because I was really guided to, so I offer like 3 things in one session based on guidance, like divine guidance and angelic guidance. It's like combining healing with messages and coaching based on just wherever you are. So it's just completely guided by source, and I get really beautiful messages for people, and it's so affirming, and it really helps me know that my experience was real and I didn't just make it up, because for a while I thought I did. So that's a gift. I've been doing those for several years now, and it's amazing.
Well, from that, as you do work with people, you can see the progress and who you're helping. And I suppose it helps you tune your skills more, too. When you help this person, then that one, and then that one, you go, okay, yeah. Training them this way, helpful. And so the skills that you have will kind of bubble to the top and tune, and your effectiveness can be pointed in the right direction, I would guess.
That's totally right. Yeah, absolutely. And it is like I've had to learn lots of different ways. Like I'm always getting better. I wouldn't say my readings 2 years ago were bad, but or my sessions. But it is like, yeah, I learn a lot, and it really is about letting, being as clear of a channel as I can be for source and the angels to work through me completely. But I'm still a person. So it is great. I feel honored. It's a real honor to work with people. It's like a gift, and it's just amazing to witness someone on their healing journey, on their spiritual journey. I love to work with everyone, no judgment about anything. Sometimes people are like, this is going to be so weird. I'm like, no, it's not. Just tell me, let's go. So it's great.
Well, that's cool. Well, I've got this section now I want to jump into if you're okay. It is called Heart's First Whisper. All right.
Okay.
Now that's where I have these questions that I prepackaged and prepared for you.
Okay.
I think they're just appropriate for this content,
Awesome.
For your space. And the heart is where I'm looking for the answer. And
Okay.
you don't answer with your brain as much as you do with your heart. I would be sure
at this point. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, let's jump into the first one here, and that is, how do you now interpret your initial skepticism towards spirituality after experiencing such a profound event?
Oh, that's a great question. I just think that I was raised in a culture that didn't accept spirituality. And I think that is now, like, I look back, I'm like, that's a real shame, because I do believe we all have a spiritual connection. And I just think that was just unevolved, honestly, to be raised as a skeptic, even though there's a positive side to skepticism, because you don't want to go so far to the other side. You believe everything everyone tells you. So I do still enjoy that I had a skeptical side so I could deconstruct my experience. But I do think it's unfortunate, especially once I met my stepdad, where it was just a natural, normal part of life. And it was like made life much better to be in touch with your spirit guides or with nature, with mother, all of that. So I appreciate my friends. I have a ton of skeptical friends. I love them a lot, but I also think there's a more balanced way to live.
Well, that's perfect, because this next question addresses that entirely, because that is, what's your guidance for these skeptical friends of yours, who they're curious about spirituality, but not to the degree you are yet?
Yeah, I would say definitely start by listening to your heart, and you don't need to look at anything in the spiritual world. It really does start internally, getting quiet and centered in your own self. And any of the bells and whistles have really nothing to do with it. It's about connecting your heart to the Creator, and also like accessing like metaphysical truths, which is that we're so much more powerful than we've been taught. But anyway, I would like to say, just start to get to know how you're actually feeling and doing, and like it'll take you from there. And you don't have to stop being a skeptic, but you might make it a little easier if you are not.
Well, a healthy skeptic, I think, is what you were saying before,
Yeah.
not overly gullible or too skeptical.
Yeah.
Somewhere in the middle. For me, it's kind of like having an open mind to kind of consider, new ideas, and then see where they lead potentially.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely.
Well, I tell you, number 3 here is reflecting on that amazing prayer. Now, sometimes you refer to that as the accidental prayer, right? And so what advice would you give about setting sincere intentions there for yourself and others?
I would say that it is really important to put your heart into a prayer if you're saying a prayer. I've been thinking of like I think it's a quote from the Bible, like, their mouths are praying to me, but their hearts are far from me. And I think I've said many prayers. I said a lot of prayers, but it's like once I really put my heart into it and I was so sincere, I think that's really, really when your heart is in it. And that's when God, or the Creator, whatever you want to call it, can truly come in and change your life. So open your heart and then just go from there. It doesn't have to be fancy. You don't have to put a lot of words to it. It just needs to come from you.
For sure. And, some of the folks I talk to, they sort of start out with this, and it's kind of like riding a bike with tricycle and the training wheels. You get started, you pray once in a while, and some just do it all the time. They just do it throughout the day. They have this continuous conversation, with the divine, effectively, and they feel that that's exercising a muscle. Then it works even more, and now they can tune into it. What are your thoughts on that?
That's a really good point. Like, it's a muscle. Oh yeah, I definitely would say that. I think like prayer can be like a muscle that grows, like your connection to your heart, to source. Definitely. I think it's something that if you were raised like me or whatever, like you might not have been, that you might have that muscle not be that strong, but you can make it strong by working it. So
yeah, just like playing the piano, playing the violin, it's kind of practice. You do it so much, it just becomes, sort of a natural thing, and you can really tune into it that way. And I know you did a lot of interaction, as you mentioned, and probably still do, with the angels. So I have a question for you, number 4, which is, what has been the most profound message or lesson from your angelic interactions?
That's a great question. I kind of hinted at what I think would be the most powerful lesson would be, well, they love us deeply. They're truly all around us, but they are not going to mess with our free will. And if you feel some guidance, I would honor it, but they're not going to force you to. And you can do what I did for some time on and off after my STE, when I wasn't sure what was real and not. I would feel guidance. I'd be like, I don't know if that's real. I don't know what's happening. You guys left me here. And I wouldn't listen. And they would let me. And it was like closed doors. It was just not a good situation. Things are not flowing in life. So as soon as you just decide to listen, and a lot of doors will open. But I guess the most profound lesson is your free will is important to them, and they want you to choose like your highest path with the Creator on your own. They're not going to force you to. So, I would say that's important.
That sounds like good advice there. It's kind of interesting when you say, trust your intuition. You sort of have to tune into that. And sometimes you don't know if it's just your thoughts telling you to do one thing or another, or is that really a good intuition? And so if you've got the intuition to think about, and then you've got free will to consider, it's kind of like, when you're a kid and your mom comes in the room and tells you to do something, but you got some free will. Do you choose to listen to your mom intuition or to your free will?
Yeah, so true. That's it. Yeah, I mean, and I think eventually we might, I definitely decided it's definitely better to listen to my higher guidance, my angelic guidance. Like, this is why I'm doing this. And it's hard. Like, my ego did not want to talk about this story. I know, like, it just was very scary for me to start sharing. But I knew I was getting this guidance to do it. And I was like, okay, I'm going to do it. I'll do it. Fine. But it was like, they weren't going to force me. I had to choose it. But sometimes it's hard, like, for our egos to do that.
So what did you find? You thought it was hard, and then once you got into it, did you find that it was hard and you just had to keep practicing, or did you find it wasn't as hard as you thought?
Well, this is why I'm having a great time today. Because like a year ago when I started, I was panicking. Like, I spoke at IANS. I had a panic attack. I would go for interviews and I wouldn't sleep the night before. And but like today I was like, gosh, I've really made a lot of progress because I'm excited to do this interview with you. And like, it's so fun now. And it's like, it's like for anyone listening, if you're afraid to do something, but you feel like you were supposed to be doing it, just keep doing it. And then it'll get easier and you'll just feel like it's the right thing.
Well, isn't there a great sense of accomplishment too when you've held back from doing something that you think your intuition may have suggested that you do and your free will may have wanted to do, but you held back. And then once you finally do it and you kind of really enjoy it, you go, holy cow, I should have done this long ago.
Yeah, it's so true. And the fact that I get to help people now, like I'm reaching people that really need spiritual help and guidance, and that means the world to me. So yeah, I'm so glad I did it for feeling the accomplishment and feeling aligned, but also to help other people find me who need me, because there's a lot of other people having spiritual experiences that aren't sure who to talk to about them. They're happening more and more from what I'm seeing.
Well, they can certainly come to your website. Why don't you remind us of that again?
Yeah, it's just my first and last name, RebeccaKastl.com, but Kastl is Kastl.
Kastl, exactly. Mm-hmm. And I'll put that in the notes below as well as at the end. All righty? Yeah. Well, thank you for that. Now we're going on to number 5. This is kind of the halfway point. You need a break or rest, or are you ready to go?
I'm having a blast. I'm going to take a sip of water, though. Is that okay?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Good. All righty, then here we go. So do you believe everyone has the ability to tune into angelic guidance, or is this a special calling for the few?
I would love to hear your thoughts about this as well. I definitely believe it's for everyone. We are not born alone. We are created by the Creator, and like we all have angels with us. And so we can all tune into it. I think that's kind of the next phase of humanity. I think when we read the Torah or the Bible, it's like only a few people got to hear this and it was super special. And now I think it's like regular people get to have it. And I think it's really exciting. So I think it's for everyone. I think it's always been for everyone. I don't know why. I don't know why everyone's, but like, anyway, everyone can tune in. It's there for everyone. It's just like a muscle that we haven't learned how to use. Or like I have clients that had beautiful angelic experiences or psychic visions and they were told to never talk about them because, as children, and it's so awful because they have these amazing gifts, but we all have it.
Well, that's a really good point. So many people, and think about it even 50 to 100 years and earlier before that, when we didn't have the internet and hyperconnectivity, so many people would have this and they would definitely never talk about it. Right. And only in the last, 20 years or so have more and more of the folks come forward to share these sorts of things. And, this question digs a little deeper into the notion of not only did you just have one accidentally, but were you seeking one? Are you each and every day attempting, you're like sort of reading a lot of spiritual material, watching, listening to things like this, and trying your best to connect at that level, and you're not getting an answer on the other end of the line, because like when you dropped that amazing prayer that you did, obviously it was listened to in a profound way. And this happens to a lot of people. And that's why, there's a lot of folks like this having these conversations. But then there's so many, and you can see them in the comments. And by the way, please leave your comments below for sure, of those that are attempting this. And they always come to someone like yourself and they go, just give me a couple of tips, a couple of
Yeah.
2-3 tips, maybe something I'm not doing, or maybe my intention isn't right, or my head's not right in the process. What do you think there?
You're so right about that, Brad, because I do have a fair amount of people, some of them book because they've had spiritual experiences, but some of them because they really want to have one and they haven't had one yet. I don't, I'm not sure why some people, I think the goal is eventually we'll all have spiritual experiences, but I think we're all meant to have different kinds. And I think don't look at someone else's as the model, like it's going to be perfect for you. I'm sorry. Just remember that like divine reality just has so much more wisdom than we have. And like whatever is perfect for your soul is what's going to happen. And I truly only had mine because I was trying to feel my heart. I was very sincere. I was not seeking for a spiritual experience. I wanted to feel my heart. And I didn't realize that when I said my heart, I think I meant God, but I didn't know that. And it was very internal. And I think just doing that kind of trying to feel what's in your heart and like getting more into that space through meditation. But I do wonder, like, if your motivation is just to have a spiritual experience because you want to have one. I mean, I don't think that's bad either, but maybe it's more like they want you to heal. I don't know. I'll do a reading with you or a session if you're wondering, but it's just, everyone's different. We all have different paths, I think. And I guess this was part of mine. But mine was more my path, honestly, Brad, since we're talking so deeply today, a lot of my path is really to be sharing publicly because of my trauma was a public trauma. And like, it's not just that the spiritual experience was my purpose. It was like, I have to love myself in front of other people. And I think maybe that's part of why I had this spiritual experience, because I'm meant to heal completely and share publicly and love myself no matter what.
I think these are all very personal. It's just like we have our own personal life and it's all unique and different. We probably have our own spiritual or very personal spiritual connection also. So I think you're right. You can learn from others, but probably don't try to, recreate the experience they had in your world. Find your own. And by the way, as folks find their own, that experience could be kind of alarming to them the first time, kind of like it was to you. So if we go to question number 6, we say, what would you say to those experiencing fear during their initial spiritual encounter? Well, it's like, oh my goodness, it happened.
I would say that's so common. In fact, it was really funny, not funny, but like later when I like read the Bible, because you try to understand your experiences. I was like, oh, these people are also freaking out. Like they saw God and they're like, I'm hiding from you. I'm going to go away. I was like, oh, I did the same thing. So I think it's kind of an ancient reaction because we are born into a human world and we are like, we purposefully come into the human world and forget that. And so it's like when it comes in, it is very shocking, but it's like, you remember it. I would say just try to breathe through it. And, the fear will go away, but you definitely, like, if you're feeling fear because you're having a negative spiritual experience, I think that's kind of a different question, I guess.
What was it that you've said before, though, where you don't have to have any fear because you have, God inside you, or there's a way you phrased it
Oh
before?
yeah. Oh, that's right. That was for my nightmares. And I guess that would work from anything. I mean, I really do wish when the light had come over my bed, I wouldn't have been so afraid. But yeah, when I had the nightmares, the last one, I just knew I didn't have to be afraid of the nightmares. And I told them, you can't hurt me. God lives in me and works through me. But that was more speaking to my shadow self or the shadowy beings, however you want to conceptualize it. I think fear is normal, though, a little bit of fear, because it's your ego. Like, we have these built up egos on our planet, and it can be really scary when something's seeing beyond your ego self, like that light was.
Very true. It's interesting when you're like most people, and maybe when you're a kid as well, it was, when you're in the dark, and you're afraid of the unknown, you turn on the light. Okay.
Yeah.
And so, it could be very similar in this case. If you have a spiritual experience and it feels like an unknown, I think, like you said, you effectively turn on the light, and then that is the power.
That is so true. Yeah. And I was like, wait, what? this is what it's like.
Yeah. Well, it really affects everybody across the board. I mean, we're all here to have these experiences, and a lot of folks talk about the veil, sort of the
Mm-hmm.
veil of
Mm-hmm.
forgetfulness. So we don't really know who we truly are, and so we are on this side trying to figure it out. And maybe that's part of the process, is to peek through it a little bit, understand a little bit what's on the other side, and what more is there. And so it really brings us to 7, really, is how has your perspective on humanity as a whole changed, seeing profound beauty and light in everyone?
Oh my gosh. It's still so powerful. And I've had several experiences too, like where I felt the sacredness of all of human life. That was at the end of my experience with this download about humanity. And it's like, oh my gosh, it's so powerful. Humans are so beautiful. And I never thought that before my spiritual experience. I had been so traumatized. I thought people were angry and mean. And then I had this experience and I was like, whoa, it's just so powerful to see how beautiful and full of light people really are. And it's always, I think what the perspective has been is like, why aren't we living that way? That's when it gets to be like, okay, let's get with the program, people. Like, we're all so beautiful and so full of love. And like, for us, it would just be so amazing if we all lived into that. And I guess that's the other thing. It made me believe that we can. Because I see it. And I feel like that's also how the creator sees it times 100 million. Like, it's just like, okay, let's get with the program. Like, when are you going to be loving to everyone? Yeah. But it did also make me naive because I was only, especially during the 2 years, I only saw the good side of people. I could only see the light in them. And even if they weren't like living into it. So have had to kind of learn.
Yeah, and that is interesting, because during that period of time where you're walking around and you saw that every soul effectively walking around has this great light that's coming out of them, they themselves may not know it. And if they're not tapped into it, they have it radiating out of the back of them, but it's not coming out of the front of them, because they could be very sort of low density and sort of not super happy. And it's like, whoa, how do you get them to turn around and get in touch with that? Are they so far sort of blinded by the interactions and the interruptions of the world that they're missing out?
Yeah, I think they are. And honestly, I was too before, especially right before I started healing. I was definitely a very wounded person that hurt people. And I think that everyone, we get to choose. Like, I chose to heal. I chose to write my journal to God, and all this other stuff. But I think that they do have that light. We just need to live into it and connect to it and honor it. And I think that's everybody's choice. I have heard like everyone needs to experience everything. And so some people in this life, I don't know. It's not up to me to decide for them if what they want to experience, but I have seen the light. Even if somebody's coming from a place of pain, and this was after my experience especially, I would see like the layers of pain, but if I keep looking, I can see like the beautiful, beautiful light inside. And that is really powerful.
And that means that everybody maybe came from a place that all was just built on light and energy. And when they come into this space, maybe that veil of forgetfulness is partially blocking them from that light that they have in them that you can see, walking around.
Yeah.
And so if that's the case, they actually, it's funny if you could ask the question, are they on a particular life's blueprint to have experiences they couldn't have on the other side that were negative, because maybe the other side is just unconditional love and it's just amazing. So they might have chosen a life's blueprint that was very different. And it was a little bit negative and a little bit polarity, something so they could really have an appreciation for that part of the world. And maybe they could only have it here, and they're doing that.
That's that's definitely, I think, one of the main philosophies. And I think that could be true. And there's always more than I know going on. So if I do see someone in real distress, I'll often just pray for them. But I have gotten guidance, especially right after my experience. I met someone who was in deep distress, and it almost looked like he had knives coming out of his eyes. And I felt really strongly like I needed to talk with him. Like, my angels were like, you need to go talk with him and you need to ask him about his experience in the service, because he'd been he'd served in Afghanistan and Iraq. And I was like starting to talk with him, and I ended up doing a lot of talking with him, and he ended up telling me he was about to commit suicide that night. And he was so glad that I I spoke with him. So anyway, sometimes like people are living in that and they don't want to be there. Sometimes people do want to be there though, I guess, I don't know, but it helped him a lot. And I felt very guided to do that, even though it seemed really crazy that I'm like, here's a veteran. And I'm like, hey, tell me what happened in Iraq. And he's crying and crying. I didn't even really know him, but he didn't commit suicide. And I'm really thankful.
Ah, well done for sure. And I think, I really want to talk more about the services that you have on your website
Yeah.
and a little greater, maybe some examples would be really useful too. And I just got one more question for you here. And that is, what's your ultimate hope or vision for humanity based on the spiritual insights that you've received? If you kind of think about the world that we're in today, you think back over the years and the different scenarios that, everybody knows where we are now and the shenanigans going on in the world, So it's like, what's your ultimate hope or vision for humanity? What's our opportunity here?
Oh my gosh, I'm so glad you asked me this question because I just had a really profound dream about this about a month ago. And my joke that I make in talks a lot is that I only have boring psychic dreams about my friends. And like, that's kind of true. But a month ago, I had a psychic dream that was about humanity. It seemed that way, at least. It was, I just saw us going through certain trials. The first trial was economic changes. I don't know, I don't know what's going to happen with that. I don't really have dreams like this a lot, but with every challenge that we were facing, if I just saw us all coming together, helping each other, loving each other, supporting each other. I saw the whole globe doing this. And it was like I was being shown like the best option for all of us was to come together and help each other and support each other as like one humanity. It was so beautiful. And so that's what I think. I think what we can do is just live into our oneness and look, be supporting each other and really truly being a global community of loving humans. It was a really beautiful dream.
So is that kind of like, you kind of lead by example. You keep your frequency as high as you can. And as you walk around in the world, that frequency is going to rub off on others. Because if you do, you might just find yourself all day long saying please and thank you and, helping an old lady across the street, all the obvious things, but even more so. And then from that, you know how the ripple effects work in the world, you do this kind gesture and there's ripple effects. And, if everyone just started doing that over and over, there'd be a lot of ripples.
Yes. Powerful. So true. So wise. I totally believe that. And for people that want to help more, I really have come to believe if you're meant to be somewhere, you will be there. And you can help exactly where you are. And if you wish to help in other ways, you can put that out there. I work with a lot of kids and I've always done that. And I feel like it's a huge part of my path. But anyway, the ripple effect is powerful. Being a kind person is powerful. That comes back in our life reviews. So if you want to like a joyful, happy, chill life review, be nice to other people.
Well, I know, working with children also has a huge ripple effect because obviously children are our future, that whole
so
part.
Beautiful. Yeah.
So let's go to my favorite website today, RebeccaKastl.com. Okay, that's RebeccaKastl.com, right?
Yes,
Kastl, Kastl.
Mm-hmm.
And so tell us more about that. Someone arrives on that website, the sort of services you do, and then maybe some examples of how you've helped folks.
Okay, that's a great question. So I love my website. I had when I was knowing I was supposed to start talking about this, I found a web designer and I was like, I found the weirdest website I could find and I found the web designer for it. And I said, could you please help me make a website for this? Because I was so scared. Anyway, she made my website many years ago now. And I love it. So please come see it. I have monthly messages that I send out in my newsletter. I post those. I just have interviews and things coming up. It's pretty simple, but I also have my services page where you can book with me. And those are my Sacred Soul sessions, which I mentioned earlier. This is a new way of my offerings. It used to just be, you can book a reading or you can book a healing, but now it's like all combined, guided by spirit, guided by source. And I've had just such beautiful experiences helping people. I've had amazing sessions. Like yesterday was my session day, and I had a woman who's going through chemo and cancer, and got a lot of great messages for her about her path, and things that are very confirming. One small thing was during the session, I saw a little dog like jump up on her lap, and I was like, "Do you have dogs? Like, I'm seeing something about dogs. Like, maybe it'd be good for you." She was like, "Oh my gosh, my mom's dogs have really been helping me, and I was just talking today, should I get a dog for while I'm going through all this?" And I was like, yeah, I mean, that's what I'm seeing. So a lot of it is like people are getting these messages and they're not sure. Half the time it's like, oh my gosh, I've been thinking about doing that. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm just confirming for you that that's coming from something greater. So yeah, I've definitely helped people clear negative energy, get back in line with themselves, feel more themselves, make life decisions. I would not say it's me doing any of it. That's one thing my stepdad taught me. It's all God. I don't take credit. If I help you, I will give the credit to the creator. It's not me. I am just a mom, so whatever works through me, I'm very honored. And if it helps you, I'm glad. And I'm very, very humbled by that. So,
well, you are the conduit, I would say. If the spirit and love is coming through you and the healing power, that's pretty cool because you're the contact here in this particular world, and you're also the one observing it all. So you can collect all that value up, share some of these experiences, probably more books in the future, and videos for sure.
Yeah, I'm working on books. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you so much. This has been amazing.
Well, I hope you had fun today.
I had a blast. This was my favorite interview so far. Thanks, Brad.
Excellent. I loved it too. I tell you what, let's wrap it. Before we do, you've got the microphone. Are there any last message you'd like to share for the folks listening to us now?
Yeah. Your heart is sacred. Your heart is completely beautiful. You're completely seen and loved by Source, by the Creator, by the Divine. And just if you're feeling lonely, just know that you're not alone and your life can always change for the better.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Well, your journey and the insights you shared today have deeply touched me and undoubtedly our listeners as well. Your courage to transform personal pain into a pathway of healing for others and yourself is incredibly inspiring. So thank you so much for your bravery, your wisdom, your heartfelt sharing today. And for those wanting to connect with Rebecca, again, REBECCAKASTLE. There's almost a jingle there. No E on the end.
No
and I'll drop that in the comments below. Okay, sound good?
Thanks so much. Yes. Yeah, come find me. I'm here. And thank you so much, Brad. This has been awesome.
Absolutely. Thank you, Rebecca.
Yeah.
And thank you for joining us on this profound journey. If you found this conversation enlightening, be sure to like, subscribe, and share. And until next time, keep questioning, keep exploring, and go beyond the illusion to discover your true self. Take care, everyone, and bye for now.